Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about making weeds for our layout, a layout update, and we're even going to be looking at Amtrak. Finally made its way to the layout, so stick around. My name's Scott. Welcome to CP Lewis. Okay, so we'll start out with the layout update portion of this video. We'll start out here in the yard. Picked up this chassis system engine not too long ago. Looking for a B23-7, which is kind of a hard thing to find in O scale. This is the closest thing I can find from Lionel. And so I'm going to have to kind of kit bash it a little bit so it looks similar to it. But this is going to be pulling a Conrail geometry car that we're going to scratch build here down the road. And so that'll be for that. So that's going to be sitting for a while, later down the road project. Looking over here in the yard, not really a whole lot changing here right now. The tracks are all painted, as you can see. Just got some cars sitting in here right now. I don't think I've ever showed anybody this before, but these were gifts from Mrs. CP last Christmas. I believe this crane car, or the crane itself, that came from Mr. Muffin's train website, and I'm not quite sure where she got the maintenance away gondola that goes with it, but really like that. That's kind of the maintenance away cranes that I remember going through Lewistown back in the day when I was going over watching trains. That's usually the crane I always remember going by, so I'm really excited and happy that I got that. Like I said, all the tracks painted and just about ready for ballast. Ballast is kind of the one thing that I kind of do last. I like to put all of my scenery up to the tracks and then finish off with my ballast last, just so it kind of like overlays everything at the end. Instead of like, you lay your ballast down first and then that's done. And then it's like everything you lay down, everything's just kind of like laying over top of it. And if you think about it, the railroads, when they're applying ballast, and they always apply that fresh coat of ballast, they always have that nice sharp crisp edge at the end, which is kind of always defined. So I'm trying to recreate that. So that's kind of why I think I always wait till the end to put ballast on last. Now that's going to be more of a mainline thing, not much of a yard thing, because this is going to be a lot more like a mix of like ballast, cinders, weeds, stuff like that, because this yard, wasn't really that maintained as well, back in the 90s when it was being used, not like the way the PRR had it. So it was definitely, seeing some weed growth, stuff like that. But, over here in the Lewistown area, you can see we started putting some trees up over here, and, still have a ways to go. Still have a bridge all the way over here at the end that goes across over here at the corner. But, again, got all the tracks painted here for the main line, and, started doing some cinder work here along the edge of the road bed. I like to do that. If you think about tracks and mainline tracks, actually, and even going back into the steam era days, if you think about it, a lot of those main lines, you always remember seeing like a lot of cinders laying along the tracks, and then maybe like up around in here is where the ballast would actually be for the track itself. So this is kind of like a sub layer I wanted to do. It's going to be in a lot of visible area along the main line, and then when I come in to put the actual ballast on itself, it's just overlap this at the end. But like I said, ballast is going to be kind of like the final touch to the scene when I get all the groundwork done. Now I'll still have stuff to do. I'll still have probably other little details to add to the forest scenes and things like that. But just the basic ground cover is what I'm looking for, just to get that stuff on, just so when I put the ballast down, I'm not going to have anything else coming over and laying over top of it. So But that's, that's what I did there. And, from our last episode, we talked about how we made trees. And, so I went ahead and just made some more and put here, and, gonna keep on going with those. And here in the foreground, some of those trees, I kind of break them apart a little bit, and I can make smaller trees too. So I still have a bunch more here and some weeds and stuff to put in this area to kind of build that up. Like I said, the yard area here just kind of started getting a little more neglected through the years. Wasn't super neglected, but there was kind of a spot here where it started to get some like sapling trees growing up through here, weeds and stuff like that. So I'm trying to recreate that whole scene here as much as I possibly can. Coming over here as we keep walking west, over in here you can see this is what we're going to be talking about here next. So these are the weeds that I've done for the layout, and again, we're going to talk about how I made those. But again, if you think about the main line, and if you see a lot of it, weeds are always along a main line, and you always got the small sapling trees that are along the main line in a lot of places. And I'm always trying to recreate that because, again, when I remember train chasing back in the 90s, and it was always so hard to try to figure out how to get to the railroad tracks. It was either you were going to be climbing through briars and weeds to make a way to get to the main line, or you had to try to figure out how to get to the nearest railroad crossing or something. And the railroad always tried to keep the weeds back. They always come through with the weed sprayers and hit along the tracks and try to keep them killed and everything back as far as they possibly could. But I think it was usually they tried to keep everything back maybe like, I don't know, 15, 20 feet off the main line as much as they possibly could. Don't have the room to obviously make that much distance back, but at least have some. I still wanted to do some weed work here and still have some saplings to do. These little saplings just, took some trees and just kind of broke them down into little pieces, and that's what I did to make those. And over here where the yard lead starts, cinder work here, I started doing some of that, and did some weed work here as well. The thing with weed work is just to kind of like vary the texture of it. When you look at weeds, there's briars, and if you look in underneath the leaves of the weeds, sometimes there's different colors of them. Some of them kind of have like a brownish silver tone. Sometimes some of them kind of have like a maroonish reddish look to them. There's all different colors and styles of weeds if you really ever just stop and look at them. So don't ever be afraid to just add colors to your weeds, because more color you have, the more realistic they're going to look. And we're going to talk about this, and we're actually going to do a small scene here through a little step-by-step method, and show you exactly how I did it, and hopefully it'll give you some ideas. So, that's really kind of the long and short of the update as far as everything that I've done so far. Next, we're going to actually start making some weeds, and we'll go from there. Okay, so before we get started making this, from the last video, I screwed up and made a big mistake, and I owe a huge apology to Scenic Express. The last episode, I was talking about this super leaf product for making trees, and we're also going to be using this for some of the cover for the weeds as well. Scenic Express is actually the company that makes this stuff, and I can't speak highly enough about this. They're not paying me to advertise in any way for this. This is just my own feedback from using this. This is the first time I've ever used this. This must be a newer product of theirs, because I've never seen this before until I started looking for something to make trees and weed cover with. But this is a really great product. I really like using their super leaf. I actually like it better than grout foam, but if you don't want to use this, grout foam is still a great product to use too. I just really like the texture this gives when you use it. So Again, my apologies to Scenic Express. I kept saying Woodland Scenics, and that's completely my fault. I don't know where my headspace was last episode, but this is completely Scenic Express's product, and great product. Definitely do want to check them out if you're looking to use something like this. So, okay, so let's make some weeds. Like last time, definitely want a rubber glove. Otherwise, your hand's going to be all kinds of different colors. Now for this one, the substructure, we're going to use some brown spray paint. So any type of brown, this is just a dark brown. And then I'm going to mix that with some gray. And this is just, automotive primer. You could use any type of gray that you want to use. Because I want to give it a little bit of a silver tone. So you don't need a ton of this. This is polyfill. You can buy this anywhere. Probably Walmart, Target, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, anybody that sells craft stuff or has a craft aisle, you can probably buy this. I mean, this was $3 or almost $4, so not expensive. But guys back in the 70s and 80s that were on videos, that were showing people how to make, trees and stuff. This is the old classic puffball tree material that everybody used to see back in the day, but that's not what we're using this for. We're actually going to be using this to make weeds. But what we're going to do with this first is we're going to take this stuff and we're just going to stretch this out really, really far. Like, we want this to be very fine. We don't want it really clumpy. We don't want it thick. We want it fine. Just, not to the point where it's completely like falling apart and not touching each other, but we just want it fine. Just like, pretty much like, kind of like this. So you can kind of see through it, but but it's still there. So we have that. So then what we're going to do is we just take our brown paint, hit one side, hit the other side. Okay. Now, then I take this gray, and I'm not like gonna completely hose this thing down with it. I'm just gonna like a little bit of a spritz, and that's just it. Just tiny spritz. Bam, done. And now, why this is wet, I'm gonna take some of this ground foam, and we're just gonna cover the top of it. You can do it that way, or if you want, you can stick it in the ground foam just like this, if you want to do it that way, and then just shake your access off. So then you have something that looks like that. So it's, kind of like a puffball pancake. So we'll just put this aside over here, and we'll make one more. So again, just a little bit. This bag, you could probably make, who knows, thousands of weeds. And I probably won't even use a quarter of this bag on my layout, because this stuff will just go so far. So again, we're just going to take this and just stretch it out. Just want it to be really fine, really thin. That's what we're looking for, real fine, real thin. Just want it to look like that. Just scattered out, just like so, really thin. Just take our spray paint again. Hit one side. Hit the other side with it. And then we're just going to take our gray and, again, just spritz. Just like that. That's it. We just want that silver tone. When you look at bark on trees, certain types of weeds, things like that, especially with those certain ways the sun hits it,
you just get that little bit of a silver tone look. So, so we're just going to cover the top of it. Looks like that. And, we can take a little bit more and just kind of add it on there. That's the nice thing about the spray paint is it doubles as a glue, just like when we were talking about with the trees. Now, I'm not going to solely rely on that because once we get this all fixed in place and stuff like that, it's going to get nailed with hairspray, and it's just going to be kind of like the final way to just set it and glue it. Some stuff, honestly, on my layout, I don't really glue down, a ton of stuff because my theory is why. The layout's not moving anywhere. If it's far enough away from the tracks that it's never going to roll into the tracks, what's the point? So I'm one of those types of people that, yeah, anything near the tracks, I'll glue it down. But if it's, 10 inches away from the tracks, back up somewhere where you're never ever going to, it's never going to move from that, probably as long as the layout's going to be standing, then I'm probably not going to glue it down. It's probably just going to be sitting there. But if nothing's going to cause it to move, that's okay with me. I just don't see the point in trying to fix stuff if it sits in place. Why spend the time doing it if it's going to sit there and still do what you want it to do? So we made 2 of these. Now our next step is we'll go over here to the layout, and I'll show you what I'm going to do now. Okay, so we're going to work in this area over here by the yard. Here's our clumps. Now these are ones that I did yesterday, so they're already dry. When you make those other ones, unless you want to wear gloves to apply them with, your hands are going to be a combination of green, brown. So these are already dried, so they're ready to go. Now, to put this stuff down, you're going to want to use a glue gun. Have one of those. Got some of the flock turf. You're going to want to use some different colors. So I have some light stuff here. Have some dark ground foam there. And then over here, I have some lighter ground foam. I'm not sure if you saw the dark stuff or not. There's that. And then, of course, we got some really, really cheap hairspray. And then as far as changing up the texture of this stuff, if you have any of these old paintbrushes laying around, or you can even go to Lowe's, Home Depot, local hardware store, these things are like 50 cents, 75 cents a piece. Grab yourself a couple of those. And the reason why is there's a metal tab right here that if you get this pulled off with a pair of pliers, this actually comes off, and it looks like this when you take this off. So what I'm doing with this is I'm actually just pulling off small pieces of this. So when I pull it off, you have little tiny sections. I mean, this is probably even too much. Just a little tiny section, even just like that. And what I'm doing is I'm just like sticking that in random places and just kind of like fanning it out, because I want to add different textures, different style of weeds, because that's real life and that's what we're trying to create here as much as possible. So I saw somebody else in another video doing that. A lot of this stuff I don't claim as my own idea. Some of this stuff I've just learned from other people doing it, and I just thought it was a great idea, so I'm just using it on my layout too. So so we're going to start with one of these pancakes, I guess we'll call it. And what we're going to do is just going to take one of these. Now, we're going to take one and we're just going to take off a section just like this. Now, so like before, because I don't want a real big thick section here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this thing and we're just going to kind of like straighten it out. But at the same token, we're going to just kind of pull it too, like in the sides a little bit. So we want to stretch it out and just kind of, again, keep it thin. Now it's okay if we're seeing the polyfiber come through. It's painted, which is okay, but we're going to come back over it with some of the foam and stuff like that anyways. So And again, if you look at weeds, sometimes the briars and things like that do show through. So not all the time is there always going to be leaves over everything. So uh, so what I do then is I'm just going to kind of, lay it over here and just get an idea, where I want to put it. And as I'm putting it here, I also want to take it and I'm going to start stretching it the other way. So what you want, instead of going flat, now we're going to go straight up with it. So we're kind of like taking the flat spot and now we're going to pull it up a little bit. And what we're doing with that is we're trying to create dimension, we're trying to create texture, because we want to make that a very weedy spot. So we have it like this, and I'm pretty happy with how that's looking. So I'm going to take some hot glue, and we're going to just put some hot glue down here. And get that section down, just like that. And then once this is glued down and that glue dries, you can come back and, play with it some more if you want to. If you're still not quite happy with how it looks, you can still move it around, stretch it out some more, do whatever you want to do with it. So, we'll take another little small piece here and just do the same thing we just did. I'm going to take it and we're just going to stretch it out, making a mess here, but that's okay. That's what shop vac's for. And just going to come out here. I don't want to get too far out because the railroad definitely kept the weeds back. This is a passing siding, but it was still maintained by Conrail, so I don't want to get too far out because there's no way they would have let weeds get this far to the passing siding. So this is probably as far as I'm going to want to go with it, to right about there. So we'll take our hot glue gun and just hot glue to there. And then just kind of dab it down a little bit. Just like that. So, and then I'll just kind of fill in between these little sapling trees here. Just pull some apart. Come in here with some hot glue. And then over here on the other side, we're just going to take this and we're just going to try to stretch this thing out as much as we can. Just like that. And we're going to set it up here like this. And, just kind of step back and just kind of take a look at it and see how it looks. And, that's looking pretty good there. So we'll just take some hot glue. And kind of tuck that underneath the tree a little bit. Okay. And I'm just using a finger, just tap it down. Be careful, the glue's hot. You'll be learning some new curse words if you touch it. Okay. So I kind of just call that, okay, there's our sub base. But as you can see, I mean, I know that doesn't seem like it's a big area, but I mean, for just that little bit of polyfiber, I mean, I think that's not too bad. So, so we got that. Now, the next thing I want to do is, now that the hot glue over here is pretty much dry, is now we're going to just kind of like pull on it. And we're pulling on it like in all different kinds of directions. And what we're doing is we're just kind of like fluffing it up, changing the shape of it. We want to, we're pulling this thing out, we're stretching it out. We want to get it all over the place. We don't want a straight line. We want weed growth. Weeds don't grow in straight lines. They grow anywhere they can possibly grow. And that's what we're looking for. Some weeds are tall, some weeds are short, some are whatever, that's what we want. So don't be afraid to variate the size, color, you know, just get in there and pull them up, pull some down, make some tall, short. We're just creating that up, that just that sense of height. And the nice thing about it is when you kind of put that there, it helps to also create a sense of distance too. So when you get more of your scenery done, it's kind of making this section of track in the back here look like it's a little bit more further away, which is kind of neat. So, so we have that section done. We have all of our foam down. You can see that we kind of took our foam there. Our polyfiber is just all taken and just kind of stretched out, and it's we're at the point now where we're ready to add on some more foam and things like that. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the hairspray here, this the cheap stuff, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take it and I'm just going to lightly just go over it. Now I know hairspray dries pretty fast, so I'm just going to do this in a small section. So just take some of that and take a little bit of your foam and just go over that. And it doesn't take much, just a little pinch. I like to let some of my polyfiber show through because that's how briars and weeds and stuff look. Make sure you're variating the color. You don't want everything the same color. Even depending on what kind of time of the year you're modeling, there might even be maybe some white in there that could be flowers, or maybe there could be some berries in there. You could add a little bit of red if you wanted to. So we have that set. Now we're going to take our hairspray again, and we're just going to come back over top of it and hit it. Don't have to soak it. We're just looking to just take it like that, and yeah, and that's and then that's set. So we'll come over here on this side now, and we're going to do the same thing. I hope you can see this. If you can't, I apologize. So start with the hairspray. Just a tiny, tiny pinch. You can make ground foam go a long way. And I'll tell you, I try my best to make it go a long way because it's not getting cheap anymore. Unless you take the time to make your own. But I try my best to really stretch this stuff out. So just take some of that, add a little bit of color to it, just like that. And put these out of the way. Come back over here with our hairspray again. Hit that with the hairspray. And, and then we have like a little bit of a section here that I'd like to just maybe kind of fill in a little bit around that tree with some weeds. So we'll pull another little small section off of this other mound here, and, we'll stretch that out a little bit. I want to just kind of like get some weeds around the tree here, like this sapling's kind of just like growing in the weed growth. So that's kind of the look I want to get here. So we'll just kind of throw that one in there. And then I also want to kind of get that around the front of that too. So we'll just take another little small section, stretch it out, and clip around front here. Just wrap it around there. Okay, so then we get our weeds down. Go. All right. Put just a little bit of hairspray, and then we'll finish it off with just a little bit of color. Just kind of blend it in. And then once after this hairspray dries, I'll just come out here with the shop vac and get everything that's like laying close to tracks and stuff. And that's also the nice thing about doing ballast at the last too. Just if someone does get like close to tracks over here and it would happen to just kind of glue itself in, you don't have to sit here and pick every little piece out of the ballast if you don't want it touching your ballast. Don't have to worry about it because you haven't ballasted yet. So it's like when you go to ballast, you're going to cover it anyways. So no harm, no foul. But yeah, so there's some kind of like a good base for weeds. Now, the final step for me is we're going to take our, this is the part of the paintbrush here that we have. And we're just going to take some of this. And then what I do is I just take some hot glue and put around the base of it just like that. And then I go down into the foam with it like this. And then what I do is I kind of like fan it out. So I want it to like kind of spread out a little bit. So it kind of looks like that. And you only need a little bit. You don't need a ton. So, like this little piece right here, I only need just a tiny bit, just like that, and then I just hold it by the tip, go down here at the base, add your hot glue, and then I'll come over here and you can just pick whatever space you want and just take it and just fan it out a little bit. Now, if you wind up seeing like any hot glue, you can always go back and, touch it up with some ground foam or whatever ground cover you want to use. But so just take a little bit more. So you can see with this stuff, you can make it go a long ways. So you don't need to go out and buy like 10 paintbrushes. This is just, I've only been used one so far. So I just pick random spots. Now with this paintbrush, now these are 2-inch paintbrushes that I'm using. And some people will come up and like cut them in half. Now remember, we're modeling O scale. So if you think about it, an O scale from where this is down here up, that's probably like 6 feet, or maybe even a little bit more. And again, if you think about how tall some weeds are, some of them are pretty tall. And I'm trying to make that or recreate that. So I want some tall weeds. So I actually want some of these to be pretty tall. So take some more of this. A little more hot glue, and we'll come down here and just find a spot, stick it in, and fan it out. Just like that. And I got this little tiny speck left here. We'll just go ahead and stick this one in, find a good spot. Now back in the PRR days, this would have never flew with them. This patch of weeds was not here. I can guarantee you this was not here in the PRR days. The PRR, I think, did an excellent job at mainline maintenance, yard maintenance. They really did a good job along their main lines at weed maintenance, everything. And where this is at right now, this would not be here in the PRR days. So yeah, that's so you can fan that out, and that's pretty much that's pretty much, I'm not gonna say done, but that's pretty much to the stage what I wanted to show you. That's good enough for me for now. And I mean, if you look at it, it's not a bad section of weeds. Even if you just want to say just to get you started, that's not bad. Um, and you can add, more if you want to, different variations of colors, stuff like that. But that's not bad. That's it's a good start. It's a good sub base to get you started with uh, some weeds. Uh, and then what I was saying before is we take one of our trees, and what I do is I'll just grab one of these and put some hot glue on it, and come over here and I'll just find a spot and put it in there. We want to create dimension. That's what this is all about. Is it's dimension. Uh, don't want flat. You want stuff high, low. You got to just remember about how much and how many different things grow in weeds. There's a lot. We got trees in there. There's just you name it, it's there. So that's what I'm trying to emulate here. So I just know from this area, particularly, just because I've been there so many times, that there's just a lot of sapling growth in this area. So I know that that's where this or what this should be. But yeah, we're just going to keep putting some sapling trees in here. I'm going to probably still add some more in there, but I'm not going to make you sit here and watch all that. But yeah, I mean, that pretty much gets you an idea of what's going on. But I think that's a pretty effective patch of weeds there. And when you're looking at it compared to the background of the trees and stuff like that, and then if you can envision the baluster and stuff like that, that's looking pretty good. That's not bad for some cheap polyfill. The trees that we picked, a little bit of ground foam and some spray paint. So I'm always trying to find ways to save money and do things cheap. And here's one way that you can probably do it too and save yourself a little bit of money. So next I'm going to get some of this cleaned up here, and we'll take a look at Amtrak, and we'll end this with some train running. Okay, so here's Amtrak. This is an MTH F40PH unit. I cannot tell you how many problems this engine has given me. When I bought it on eBay, I was told that it ran, and of course for the price, it's one of those things where it's like, if it's too good to be true, it probably is thing, because when it showed up, it didn't run. And the seller was nice enough to give me some money back, which was nice. But in the end, I'm not a huge electronics guy, and it's really hard for me to try to figure out these circuit boards and some of these MTH engines and what goes where, how it works, all that stuff. So what I wound up doing is I just got a reverse board from Williams, and with the wiring harnesses, and that was probably the easiest thing I've ever done as far as putting in an actual circuit board. It couldn't have been any easier, but I put that in, and this thing just runs like a champ. Still have to put the headlights in and put a module in so I can get the flashing beacons going again. But I mean, this thing, it runs great. I can never speak enough good words about Williams stuff and Weaver stuff. Everybody's got their own opinions about how things run, but honestly, that's one of the reasons why I think I just stay conventional, because I'm quite happy with a lot of the older stuff, some of the older MTH stuff on how it runs. I mean, I'm content with it. I'm happy with it. But yeah, so I mean, I got this running great. Bought some reefer cars to go with it, and then baggage car there, some more reefer cars, And then down here at the end was kind of my reasoning for going with the semi-scale stuff. Is I found a deal online for these. These are the E-Waltz Amtrak Bud cars. Now, again, these are the cars that I always remember coming through Lewistown, different trains. I think there was like Amtrak 41, 43. One was like the Pennsylvania, one was the Broadway Limited. I forget the name of the other one, but I really like these cars. These were made in like in the early 80s. And, I'm kind of a vintage guy. Uh, and I don't know, I was just kind of drawn to them. I just really like how they have like an actual metal chassis to them. And I just kind of like that old phase one look and stuff like that. And plus, for the price of them, you just couldn't beat it. They still light up, believe it or not. And yeah, I just like the look of them. Now, eventually, I will upgrade to full scale Amtrak coaches, but for the price of those things, it's like, you know what? I'm happy with this right now. I'm quite content with this train. This will serve my purposes for a while, and eventually I'll upgrade, and this will just wind up being in the display case. But I'm quite happy with it. Eventually, I'm going to get some red LEDs, and on the end of these, I'll take those little nubs out there, and I'll actually put the red LEDs at the end. So, every time you see the end of Amtrak, it always has those two little red lights at the end. So I'm going to make sure that this train actually does have those at the end lit up. But I'm really happy with these cars. I haven't had any problems with them whatsoever. I mean, zero problems. They run great. And, I've never seen them before online. And I was just kind of drawn to them. And I thought, you know what? Hey, I'm going to give them a try and just see what happens. And, they're definitely different from probably like anything MTH would make. They're definitely different from anything Lionel would make. But I mean, I just can't speak enough good words about them. I mean, they are nice cars. I mean, yeah, they're definitely aged. I mean, you can see like the sticker on here that it's definitely aged. You can tell that. But hey, it's vintage, It's from like 1982, I think it is, or 83. It's old stuff. I'm gonna take these apart. A lot of these are looking like that. I'm not sure what happened there. I think they need to be reset, or these are supposed to be like tucked in underneath the frame there. So I just haven't had a chance to really fool around with them yet. But they're just really, really nice cars. I like them. So yeah, I mean that's that's Amtrak. Amtrak is one of those trains that I don't see a whole lot of people running, and I don't know why. I don't know if people just don't like Amtrak or what the story is, but like I watch so many people's layouts, and even some of the bigger YouTubers that have trains and modelers and things like that, and it's like hardly anybody ever runs Amtrak, and I never understood why. But I'm going to run it for you, and of course we're going to have Conrail running too in the background. But yeah, I intend on running Amtrak on this layout. Not all the time, but it's definitely going to make its appearances. And yeah, so that's kind of the long and short of this for Amtrak. And here's this side of the layout. I don't know if there's really anything to talk about on the front here. I don't really think we have much in the way of an update. Oh, I did put handrails here on both sides of the layout there for that. So that's really the only update. It's just the handrails there on Ray's Bridge and the road here. I think we covered it on the last one. So yeah, that's pretty much all for the Amtrak and updates. I want to thank you for stopping by. It was a pleasure to have you here. Thanks for hanging out and catching all the updates. We're putting another layout update out soon and another how-to video coming up. So definitely catch you for those. Until then, we'll see you soon.